Alrighty, so I am going to allow myself the opportunity to become truly obsessed with something. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. I stay in constant awareness of my age and the goals that I've had for all of my adult life, even prior to then, going back into my teenage years. And I am constantly asking myself, assessing how far I've come, if I've gotten any closer to actualizing the dreams that I've had for 15 years. We have the lofty goals, being a movie star, getting to just act, which is honestly my dream job, being in film and television and pretending and getting paid for it. That is definitely my dream job. Writing interesting dialogue, something that changes an audience's perspective or viewpoint. Giving people an opportunity to peek inside another person's brain. Yeah, those are the lofty goals. Telling a story that is gigantic in scope, king of the world, an individual who sets out to be a successful entrepreneur and is able to monetize his life story and achieve billionaire status, and through that achievement affects the world in a positive way by making connections and collaborating with other like-minded individuals, and as a result changes the shift in how things are run. So we got the lofty goals out of the way. Perhaps because these goals are so lofty, it's hard to actually perceive what type of progress is being made. Maybe that's always been my issue. I've been in LA now for 8 years, and I don't know, if we just take a look at, let's go with the first one, acting. I lost interest in the straightforward process of making it as an actor pretty damn quickly. I tallied doing 100 auditions spread out over the course of however many years that it took me to get that 100 auditions. And I remember how I felt after getting that 100th one. And it felt a bit monotonous, a bit tedious. I don't really like the auditioning casting process. It doesn't feel serving to me. And then back in 2021, when I got to co-produce and feature heavily in a film, that was so damn satisfying to me, and I didn't audition for it. I read for the part. Gary Smith was the director and co-producer of the film. It's his film. He wrote it, starred in it, directed it, all the wonderful things. But we're sitting in the casting room, we're auditioning actors for these roles, and he just had me read for the main bad guy, and I did it well, and then I got cast, and I got to perform, and I got to do other functions in the film, functions that a producer does. And that experience on that movie set was so goddamn satisfying that I couldn't bring myself to go back to auditioning, as ironic as that might sound. Instead, the way that I felt after finishing that movie was, this is what we need to do. We need to place ourselves in situations where you are more in control and you don't have to get on your knees asking for a casting director to see the potential of what I can bring to a character. Not even that I'm even interested in the characters that I was auditioning for. I think that's probably the primary reason why I lost interest in auditioning, is because these roles that I was getting, the sides that I was going into these casting rooms and setting up the camera to do a self-tape, they weren't interesting to me. And I'm interested in complex characters, I'm sure, just as much as any other person who has aspirations of being an actor. We're interested in sinking our teeth into a role, and I want to see what I'm capable of. So I'm not going to, I don't know. I just think there's more than one way to skin a cat. So we got the acting out of the way. Then when it comes to writing, I've got very specific material that I want to write. I have a very specific story that I already alluded to that I want to get down. And what's my excuse for not writing it? There is none. Perhaps I've just been figuring out how to tell it, who the audience is, since people don't really read anymore. I have questions that I need answered in order for me to really dive into it. And then there is the matter of not really having time to write due to my day job and how demanding that is. Okay, so we've got the lofty goals out of the way. Then we have the apex frequency and the 3-step project that is. And just to recap for myself and for whoever's listening, it starts with, first, the body, and perfecting the body, creating a physical representation of what man is capable of achieving, a presentation of peak, the next level of human evolution, represented in physical form. That's the body. Let's stick with that for a second. The reason I always strayed away from telling myself that I would compete in bodybuilding based off of that specific art project that I just outlined is that, to me, competing in a bodybuilding competition it doesn't feel artistic. It feels like I'm lumping myself in with other bodies, other physiques, and perhaps these physiques might have different goals than myself. For instance, and again, it could be just the stereotype of bodybuilding. When I think of bodybuilding, I think of mass. And yeah, we're at the point now where lean physiques and having low body fat percentage is definitely a priority for bodybuilders, but the general public thinks of bodybuilders as mass monsters, especially in this day and age. Maybe back in the golden era. I'm taking my shirt off because I'm hot. Okay, so yeah, maybe in the golden era the physiques just looked better, but they were still really large. And again, that's not my goal. Instead, my goal is creating an aesthetic physique that looks so perfect that the way that I see it, and this is just my imagination, but I want, let's say aliens were to come down to Earth and they want to see an example as to what a human physique should look like, or the potential of a perfect human physique. I want my body to be that example. That's the best way to describe it, and that's how I see it. So when I think about bodybuilding, I just think I don't know if that artistic endeavor lines up with actually putting myself on a stage next to tens or 20, 30 other people who have a similar passion, but maybe not necessarily the same artistic integrity with it. But I could be just shitting myself. I could find a lot of like-minded individuals in that sport, which is why I am interested in actually, for one, take myself off of a pedestal and actually start speaking to people who have this passion, learning what my difference is and how they actually view the sport, because it is a sport and we are considered athletes. It's a different sort of sport, but it's a sport. And I think it's time for me to stop isolating myself from other individuals who share similar interests and just really start immersing myself in the culture. And it starts there. It starts with bodybuilding and sculpting and building an aesthetic physique. And then from there, again, this is just phase one. This is just phase one. And yeah, it's going to take years because I neglected my legs for the better part of my young adult life. And it's going to take years to build those legs and make them proportional to the rest of my body. But that will be the process, and that will be the journey and the thing that we document over the next 2 to 4 years, give or take. But at some point I will be standing on a stage and I will be competing. And the cool thing about that is once I've accepted it, I look at things differently now, because in my heart I was always competing to be the best in the world at what I do. But now to actually state out loud what it is that I'm doing, it's no longer about being the best Sean Fury that I can be. It's now literally stating I am pursuing being the best in the world at this, having the greatest physique on the planet, and actually submitting myself to being judged on those standards. And again, it still gets a little muddy for me because I am not pursuing mass, and I have to do more research on what the qualifications are or the guidelines or how judging is considered when it comes to bodybuilding, because I am not looking to enter a competition where people are judging or judges are looking for mass. I'm more interested in showing the elite level of aesthetic physique that a person can achieve. And those are the type of competitions that I'm interested in. So we have that. And through that, again, it's going to take years for me to actually properly condition myself, grow my legs, and achieve the level of discipline that is just fucking amazing. But to have the goal and to state out loud that I'm competing against others, it does hone the mind more, where I'm no longer just doing it for me. I'm doing it, I don't know, I always think of the Olympians. And again, it goes back to the thing I was saying as soon as I started recording, is that I am giving myself the opportunity to become obsessed. And now every time I step out into the world and someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, do you want to do this?" "Oh, sorry, I'm obsessed with this thing and that doesn't fit into my regimen." "Do you want to drink this drink?" "Oh yeah, no, I'm actually training." And I always think, again, about the Olympians who, they get up at, and this is just an arbitrary number and completely made up example, but the Olympians that get up at 5 a.m. and train for 4 hours before breakfast, and then have breakfast, study ways to improve their technique, and then get back to training, and then have lunch. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I am excited about that level of focus. Something that I've always known that I needed, And I think I've just needed something concrete to focus on. It's always been so easy for me to say, oh, I need to focus on myself and these lofty goals. But because these goals are so goddamn lofty, it's very difficult for me to actually navigate towards them. And this is just something that I'm admitting. I've admitted before, but never really publicly, if this is public. But it has been an issue. It has been an issue. Wanting to take over the world and not knowing exactly how to get started. This is concrete. Training my body, maintaining the mass, losing the body fat, and documenting it. It's really that simple. And honestly, this is actually probably a saving grace that this is going to take me several years, because over the course of these next couple of years, as long as it takes me, I will actually learn how to become focused, how to become obsessed. And then when that obsession is over, we can just go the Arnold Schwarzenegger route. Document this whole fucking bodybuilding thing, compete, kick ass, make connections, meet other people who have similar interests, and then when it's over, transition into the next project, which is the next step of the apex frequency story or the apex of all alpha story, what have you. But it's the documentation of Sean Fury. We are fictionalizing the name and the character and the likeness of me, Sean Fury, the apex of all alphas. It's just that simple. We're showing his rise. And at the end, there is flight. So, we have the body, we've got the bodybuilding competition, we've got the networking that comes along with the bodybuilding, and once all is said and done, we do proper documentation of it. We got to film a whole lot of content, and I will admit that I can definitely do better at polishing up the content. I've made my bed, so we're getting somewhere. I've just been focused on perfecting the physique, and that's going to get even more perfect. But I do admit that I need to get better with the presentation as a whole, especially while I'm working alone. Anyway, once the bodybuilding competitions are done, and I've built those connections and learned all of those things, and I've set myself up as an online training consultant, then we can segue into the next phase of the project, which is the mental, and that's conversations. We segue from the physical to the mental, and we start telling a story about how I think and how I would like to interact, connect, and collaborate with others. This is told through podcasts, told through fictionalized scenes that star the character of Sean Fury. Told over the course of film, television series, books, what have you. That's the next phase. I predict that that phase will occur in my 40s, if not sooner. But the mental phase will be 40s. And then, once that's off and running and we're getting to write to my heart's content and we get to actually tell this story, and I think Mad Men when I think of how I would present the show, a character study, Don Draper, Sean Fury, same thing. Once I've had my fill of that and I feel like I have fully expressed myself in the mental aspect, then we go into phase 3, which is spiritual. What does that look like? Well, I haven't even spent that much time thinking about it, because to me it's decades away, and I don't know, I think it's nice to leave that one untouched for the time being. I got plenty of things to focus on in the meantime. 2 things I'll say before I wrap this up. First thing is I don't feel like I'm in a rush at the moment. I know that this is going to take years. If there's one thing that I wish could happen sooner, it's the ability to quit my day job. That's the only thing I would rush if I could. If I could rush out of having to clock in and dedicate time to a thing that I'm not interested in, that is my dream existence. Not getting paid to do something I don't want to do. That's why I'm doing all of this. Yeah, it's an art project, and I have tricked myself into becoming passionate about this art project. But that passion is derived out of a desire to get out of the matrix. I do not want to work for other people and have them pay me to do something I don't want to do. That's where this passion comes from. That's where this motivation comes from. That's it. I still want money. I want money to afford this room, this house, my car. But I don't want to work and do something I don't want to do for it. So instead, it has to be art. I got to get paid for my art. My body will be art. My writing will be art. My acting will be art. And that's what I want to get paid for. If I was born rich, I don't know what I would be doing. Probably this. It would be more chill. But yeah. Or maybe I would just never get anything done if I was born rich. So maybe things worked exactly as they should have, because now I can contribute to society in the way that I can, in the way that I want. And, struggle is necessary in order for fucking, diamonds are coal that dealt well under pressure. So let's just go with that. I will have a day job for at least another year. So I got to deal with that. I will have a day job for at least another year, if not more. And that's dependent upon how quickly I can grow my online following and my business as a online consultant, because that's where I see myself going so far as supplementing my own income. So there's that. And that's dependent upon how quickly I can grow. All right, that was one thing. And then the last thing I'll say, I can no longer remember. Last thing I'll say is I've always derived pleasure out of being alone on holidays. It's July 3rd right now. The house is empty. Granted, it's not necessarily Independence Day or the 4th of July. I do have plans to spend time with my girlfriend tomorrow. But just knowing that out there in the world there are people celebrating and interacting and spending time with their loved ones and stuff like that, and I am here alone with my thoughts and my camera, I've always appreciated that. There's something so calming about the fact that I'm still here, and I always will be, as strange as that sounds. And there's so much work to do. So that's what I got today. Seeking perfection. I actually feel really good about this video. This feels the most clear-headed that I've felt in perhaps ever when it comes to speaking my mind on camera. I have a plan. And honestly, the first phase is so simple. Just get inhumanly shredded, keep the mass, and be chill about it. It's really just that simple. And just be obsessed. Just be obsessed. So, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.